Well, good afternoon, everybody. Today is Sunday, April the 18th, and this is Life Matters. Come on, let's talk about it. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Life Matters. You know, this is the place where we talk about all things in our community. We talk about anything that affects the African American community. And today I want to welcome our very special guest, Miss Gwendolyn Wilson. She is coming to us live and in living color. Hi, Gwen.
Hi there, Michelle. So glad to be here. Thank you again for the invitation. It is so exciting to be here.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Want to remind all of our guests out there, all of our viewers, our listeners, to field your questions. Pop them in the comments section so I can field them over to our guest and she can help us to get ourselves together. Today, we are talking about financial wellness and financial literacy. And we know that is something that is kind of a sticking point in our community. And so hopefully, well, I already know, I believe that Gwen is going to help us along our journey to doing better with our money. And so let me introduce her to you all. She has an extensive background, but I'm going to give you a little bit about her. She's a native Washingtonian, an author, a speaker, an architect of transformation, inspirator, life and business coach, affectionately known as the Turning Point Strategist, and we're going to hear about that. For over 25 years, she worked for the global nonprofits in financial management and business development to support startups, small businesses, entrepreneurs develop collaborative solutions for long-term sustainability and success. She has an MBA from Norwich University in strategic management. Oh, we're about to get real blessed. She authored her first book, Turning Point, Answering the Entrepreneur's Call to Empower Startups to jumpstart their business using her proprietary strategic MAPE system to accelerate success by transforming their mindsets, actions, plans, and execution to manifest results. Now, she knows this not just because she worked in it, but she also was downsized. So she is a product of her own,
Yes.
of her very own teachings. And so in a place of frustration and reinvention, she lost her income. She became angry, depleted her savings. And so it was the craziest thing she had ever done, but she built her own business, 6-figure business. Lean in, everybody. 6-figure business using her expertise, education, and talent. So I need you all to get your paper and your pens because she is going to lay down some heavy stuff for us because God knows we need it. So today, Gwen is a life and business coach. She supports women just like her. You know, we're going to let the men listen in too, at turning points and crossroads and transitions in life. And so we know that she's telling us that we can have an abundant life and an abundant business working from home, monetizing what you know. So I really need to talk to you after this because I gave you a little snippet before we started the show. And so we are so excited to have you join us on today, Gwendolyn. And, you know, I have my pen and my paper.
All right.
I'm ready to take some notes, but let's jump right into this. Let's give everybody a working definition because, you know, everybody doesn't understand what financial literacy or financial wellness actually means to them. And so if we give them something that is palatable for no matter where they are, give us a working definition of financial wellness.
Okay, when you think of financial wellness, and probably the easiest way to make it real is when we think about wellness, we think about our health, we think about mental wellness. And so you think about all the words that's fitness and being smart, doing the right things, managing well. So it's the same thing with financial wellness. So when we think about financial wellness, we think about effectively managing our economic life, our financial life, simply having financial security or being smart with your money, having strategies to spend, save, and invest. And we always talk about financial freedom. So some of the other things you would think about is that how to keep spending within your means or just below your means, being financially savvy for having emergency funds and accessing information to make good decisions. So when we're thinking about financial wellness, we're talking about pumping up ourselves, doing the right thing, having good financial habits, making sure our household is well, not only for now, but for our future. So when you wrap it all up, it's just pumping up that finances and getting smart and doing all the right things so that you can actually live well and comfortable from now until retirement and past that, and also to leave a legacy. And that's something that in our communities, we're actually just really getting, you can see a lot of energy going into teaching financial literacy and also talking about leaving a legacy. And that's something that we haven't done for decades, but now it's a big shift and a wonderful shift. So that's basically what financial wellness is.
Well, that was some good stuff because you popped in some words in there that I think some of us really need to jump into. You said effectively
Yes.
managing our finances. And so
Yes.
I think a lot of us in our community, and I'm going to say us, a lot of us in our community, we have a tendency to, as soon as something hits our pockets, i.e., a stimulus check, as soon as something hits our pockets, we feel like we gotta spend it because it's gonna burn a hole if we don't take the time and get it out of our.
Yeah.
Well, I have money. So why? This is just your perspective. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. Try to give us build the landscape. Why do we feel in our community that as soon as we get something in our hands that we have to spend it all? What is your perspective on that?
My actually perspective on it is systemic racism. And I think that for historically in our communities, and then let's actually go back. We've built Black Wall Street, so we know what to do. But as a whole, I think looking wealthy has been a staple in our communities, driving, big cars, purchasing big homes, and not always managing every aspect so that it's lasting. And one thing that we haven't been really working in, or actually have really been a major issue in our communities, is building legacy wealth, building wealth so that our children, buying real estate property, buying property so that they can go to college, or also being able to pass on wealth and teaching financial literacy in our families and our homes. So it hasn't come, so for so many years, we haven't been teaching it and making it a family plan, a family talk, a family teaching, a family understanding. And so that, I think, has been basically historically what has hindered us. And it's not that we're not intelligent enough, not that we don't have the resources, but it has not been implemented as a from generation to generation, that it's a part of who we are and what we do. And now I see more and more. I see lots of programs for kids, and oh my God, I see so many young kids that are entrepreneurs. It is mind-boggling to see these young kids and their generations. These next two generations are far ahead of, we're baby boomers. I'm a baby boomer anyway, and and so not to see that. But yeah. So right now we're in a great transformation, and it's exciting, and we want to actually, help and support and make a difference.
Yeah, because what I've found, up until we've got to this point where we had to start to look at money a little differently. Because if you think about it, what is our attitude
That's
as a whole What is our attitude towards money? Like I said, when someone gets a stimulus check or somebody gets a raise, it's almost as if they want to spend it so nobody can get it. Or they
Yeah.
want to spend it so that, it's mine and I gotta, treat myself. I have to bless myself. So let's talk about a little bit about attitude or mindset when it
Oh,
comes to finances.
that mindset is king. Mindset is king for anything that you want to do. One of the things that I talk about and share a lot is because mindset is king, and you have to deal with, if you cannot align what you think and what you speak and what you do, if that's not in alignment, you'll find yourself so many oftentimes thinking that you want something, but what you speak and what you do are contrary to what you think. And so
Yeah.
when you think about what we think, you think the fact that we hear many voices. We hear our family voices, our spouse voices, you hear your mentors' voices, and we hear, negative thoughts, we hear positive thoughts. So when we think about financial wellness and what we hear, some people, oh girl, just go on and treat yourself. You should treat yourself every payday. No, not necessarily, because
No.
treating yourself is financial wellness. Being able to have financial independence and retire earlier than normal, that's treating yourself. But
Yes.
that instant gratification comes from, and I think it's part of systemic racism. I think that, as a people, we have um, struggled and dealt with so much. And even now, the intensity of what we're seeing in our country today, it still impacts us. And I was telling someone the other day, I said, a lot of times when they talk about how we deal with different illnesses early on and differently from other um, ethnic groups, it's living in a world where you're always um, you cannot hide because of your color, or you cannot, you deal with everything because of who you are, and the impact of that affects every aspect of your life. So
Yes.
so that gratification, that's a sense of control. And so a
Mm.
lot of times we spend because it feels powerful to do what you want with your money, when you want to do it, how you want to do it. But in the long run, it impacts not only you, but the next generation. And so when you think about the mindset and how we think about money, we pass that on directly or indirectly. And,
Yes.
I grew up where we didn't discuss money at home, because that was adults thing. So you didn't get involved, but you miss not having that. You didn't know what to do with it. So even as financial managers and financial people, doesn't always mean that we do well with our money, because it's the way you think and
Mm.
what you speak and you say to yourself, because we have the power to speak life or death
Mhm.
over our finances. We can
Yes.
speak financial wellness to ourselves. We can think it and we can do it. But if those things are not in alignment, you can say, you know what, I'm going to do well with my finances. And then you'll speak that. But what you're thinking is, oh no, I'm entitled to every
Yes.
payday. I'm entitled to buy myself something. So even though you're speaking out loud, I got this under control. And then your actions don't line up with those three, don't line up. You don't have great success because
Yeah.
your actions and your beliefs are contrary.
And that is so good. And so when we go back to, our mindset being king, um, let's take it back to the stimulus check, because we know that everybody who's gotten
Yeah.
there probably spent it
Yes.
already. We know the godly principle is that we give 10% off the top,
Yes.
but that's to God. Do we, or why don't we, or maybe it's going into what you just stated, why don't we take an additional 10% and set that aside? You know
Exactly.
what I mean? And
Yeah.
so,
Exactly.
I don't think, and like you said, as when we were younger, we didn't get in adults business. We weren't allowed to, talk about money. Money wasn't laid at our feet. Now my history is a little different, because my stepfather, when we did our chores, he would ask us if we wanted all of the $10, the whole $10, or did we want $5, or did we want, to put it all in savings? And so
Oh,
whatever
that
you
was nice.
saved, we had these little jars. Remember the big money water
Yes.
jars?
Yeah.
Well, you would drop your money into these big water jugs. And when it was time to go on vacation, whatever was in the jug, each one had their own. That was your spending money. It didn't come from mom and dad. But if you saved 200, that was yours. If you saved 20, that was yours. And so he would always ask, when we had the chart on the wall, $2 to do the trash, $2 to do this, or what have you, he would ask, do you want your whole $10 or whatever the balance was? Do you want to split it, or how do you want to do it? And so it was our choice. And so
Okay.
I was taught early about money. So I don't play.
And that was excellent because it also taught you the value of money, the importance of saving, and
Mhm.
all of that, those are seeds. And
Yeah,
so when
yeah,
we have seeds, they grow up and they develop. And so it has impact.
yeah. And so I was able to share stuff like that with my son. Now, as I
Hmm.
got older, and the wages weren't sufficient, it got harder and harder to make the choice as to whether or not I could do 10%, 1%, or no percent. And now I'm doing better at it. I'm siphoning off the top, putting
Hmm.
it over here, putting it over here, and eventually it's going to get somewhere at some point. And so I think it's important for our community to understand that if you have $1,400, keep 1,000, put 350 away, or put 200
Yeah,
away. And if you got to
exactly.
splurge, if you have to treat yourself, if you need a new bundle of hair, if you need to get your your nails and your feet done, do that. But you've got to treat yourself, like you said, by establishing financial wellness, putting it away where you can't see it. And Gwen, this is something that I do. And I had to tell my husband this. I said, honey, I have a savings account that I can't see.
Exactly.
So where most of my money is in one institution, my savings is somewhere where I don't have access to it. I don't go in on my phone and check it every day like I do my regular house account and my ministry account. And so my savings is somewhere I'm like, I don't know how much is in there. I'm just going to leave it alone. And
Yeah.
so I think out of sight, out of mind is a good
And
strategy.
yeah, it is. But you actually still need, because you are, I love the word acronym moi, because a lot of times we go, moi, me, in a negative tone. But if you think of it as being a manager, a owner, and an investor, moi. And
Mm,
so you are responsible for, God makes us stewards. So when you think about money, it's the scripture in Deuteronomy that he says that God gives us the power to get wealth. And wealth means sufficiency, enough.
mm,
And so when you think about, Old Testament and how with Abraham, they actually um, showed what it looks like to leave a legacy where each child was given something different. They weren't given the same thing. And so they actually sold to one another. They actually, utilize one another in terms of business. So when you think about having uniqueness or using your authentic power to build something, to build a business, to use your creativities, because all of us have giftings and we're transformers. So we would transform different people. We're born to make a difference in different folks' lives. We all have our, people that we're going to touch. And so
mhm,
as a result of, when you think about in terms of finances, your stewardship starts with your tithes, with your blessing yourself and your family. So it means actually pouring back into to make bigger and to have sufficiency, so that you can not only bless yourself and your family, but you can bless others. And remember, and throughout Old Testament, widows, they actually the Jews had to leave a part of a corner part of the outside of their property
yeah,
for those that didn't have sufficiency. So for widows or people that didn't have, family to take care of them, so that everybody had a way to bring in wages and to give back unto the Lord. So that was a requirement. And so
mm,
when we think about stewardship and we think about getting that type of money, we have to find a way to actually say paying ourselves means also saving, putting aside for the next generation, a legacy. So it financial wellness has everything to do with the plan of God. So when you look at it, one of my other favorite scriptures is there's always going to be opportunities to see when where's that scripture? It's somewhere in Genesis. And anyway, there'll be seed time and harvest as long
Mhm.
as there is daylight,
Right.
summer, as
Mhm.
long as there's summer, winter, fall,
Season.
there
Mhm.
seasons, there always going to be seed time and harvest. And
Yeah.
that means there's always going to be opportunities to plant. So we have to take those opportunities when we get a seed, and that stimulus is a seed.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so,
Absolutely.
just to blow it at one, shopping with, and most of the time, a lot of times when we shop, ladies, I know, and we're not just the ladies, but when we shop, sometimes we don't have a need. It's just a want.
Right. A nicety versus a necessity.
Yes,
I used
yes,
to
yes,
tell
yes,
my
yes,
husband,
yes.
I used to tell my son, excuse me, you have to know the difference between a nicety and a necessity. Is it
Yeah.
nice to have or is it a need? Um, Before we get to some of the questions that our viewers are putting up, give us some hindrances to financial wellness.
I think most of the major hindrance is first knowledge.
Mm,
If you're going to look at biblical principles as a believer, then you need the Bible is full of them. One of
mhm,
the things that we have to look at is what were the principles. Um, Israel is wealthy. They've
yeah,
always been wealthy. And if God says to us in Galatians chapter 5 that you have the same relationship, you have the same blessings that Abraham had, and it cannot
mhm,
be nullified,
right,
then we have to walk in that. But
yeah,
then we have to know what it is and what the plan was, and also emulate that. So
yeah,
when we think about, I think the hindrance is knowledge first, and you have to make well, let me go back. Let's see, my this is my 4-step strategic proprietary plan. Mindset is king, then action, then planned and execution. And it's MAPE, it's an accelerator. So first you have to have the mind to want to make a difference in your life. So if you say that I want to have financial wellness, then you gotta develop your mindset. You have to examine and make an assessment of your attitude toward money. What makes you happy about how you handle money? What makes you unhappy about the way you manage money? Then you look at your actions. Do your actions line up with what the type of life and the plan that you want for your life and your family? If it doesn't, then that means you have to decide to change your actions. The third thing,
yeah,
what's your plan? If you want financial wellness, what is the saying? Fail to plan, plan to fail.
and
If
fail.
you don't have a plan, you fail, because you have to have a roadmap. And we say the Bible is our roadmap as believers. Then there are hundreds and hundreds of principles
Yeah,
about money
yeah,
and finances in the Bible. And then the
yeah,
last thing, you got to do the work. You got to execute the plan. Do the work. So if you want to change, you have to start with your mind and then, develop a plan. And so when you think about financial wellness, just like anything else, you have to have a blueprint. Where is it that you want to go? What is it that you want to accomplish? I think during this pandemic, if we haven't learned anything, even those folks that were certain industries were crushed,
yeah,
hospitality, and some of these people had their own travel business, they had savings, but in over a year and a half, that would deplete anybody's savings, even if they did all the right things. So you
mhm,
can see that, all it takes is a major devastation. Now, other areas are flourishing. So it just depends on what industry you're in, who you work for, that you didn't get hard hit by it. But I think it also taught us something, that at least preparation and planning for financial wellness gives you some leverage.
amen, amen. That's some good stuff. We have a question from our audience that says, "How many months should you save for an emergency fund?" I know how much, but getting there is another issue. How
It
much?
and you should have at least 6 months. 3 months is a start. And what I tell people is, don't stress yourself if you're just getting started. Start from wherever you are. The whole key is just getting started and building up, because as things change, like for instance, one of the things that I always did, if I bought a new car and once I paid it off, if I didn't need that money to pay off another debt, or if I wasn't sure, I would take that payment and actually send it to a bank account. I'm like you. I have a bank savings account. I don't ever have ATM cards. Never get an ATM card. It's too much access. And take that money and direct deposit it into a savings account. So there's always little ways to do it. And starting small is better than not starting at all. And
Mhm.
starting now is better than starting later. Because the biggest asset that we have when we're talking about finances and growing money and growing investments and growing our IRAs and putting money in that 529 for our kids is time. The sooner
Mhm.
you start, the more time you have for that money to grow and make your money work for you.
Yeah.
Giving it to shopping malls, it's not growing. Putting them in investment, investing in things for your children, investing in, the 529 plan. And you do know that if you have a business and, you can create other programs of money. You can actually get, mine slipped me. It'll come back to me, but not only 529, but you can actually get, oh boy, it's a, investment account for kids that are your employees.
Mm, mm.
It'll come back to my mind before we get it off. And so there's so many ways to take that money and make your future greater than maybe where you are now.
Does it always have to go into a banking institution, or can
Oh
it go
no, if
into um, other than banks? Where would you suggest
it
putting
would
your savings?
where would be other financial institutions? There's AMA accounts that are um, uh, have higher interest rate. They're banks and they're higher interest rates. So there are AMAs. There you can do investments accounts. Some people like the Bitcoins. They're doing really well. It's according to your choice. So that's why you really do have to spend a little bit of time in
Re-
analyzing and maybe even talking to someone. And I now there's so much information, but also you may want to talk to a financial person, um, talk to your family about it, look up some things, and because it's based on the financial tools that you use are going to be based on what's comfortable for you, So um, there are income generated life insurance policies that are really good for families to use. Some families was sharing with someone, and this family actually used income generating funds to ensure that all of their kids were able to life insurance policies were able to have down payments for their homes. So they actually get a life insurance policy, income generating for every child that was ever born in the family. And then they pulled out of that the income for college, for their first down payment on their homes. And I said, wow, what an amazing plan for, a family, but they did that collectively. So that was something that they had instituted and developed and made that a part of their family
Mhm.
legacy plan.
Mm. That's good. That's good. We have another question from our audience. How do we get unstuck from quicksand called financial ruts?
Well, the first thing you do, I have created what I call a financial wellness assessment, and it's broken down into three parts. So first, you got to do an assessment of where you are, and then the first part is spending, savings, and management. So you go through and you say, do I have a checking or savings account? So you just kind of go through, do I have an emergency fund? So once you do an assessment, you look at, and I can share this with your audience, or they can actually reach out to me and I'll give them a copy. And you kind of just go through, and when you see what the no's and the yeses are, then you get an idea of where you need to start. If you don't have an emergency plan, putting in $100, whatever you have to start with works, and you want to be consistent. The second thing you want to do is, if you get big refunds, sometimes we get excited because we get big refunds. What that basically means, you're giving IRS too much of your money and you didn't get any interest for it. So if every year you get $2,000 back, then that means you could actually, you take that $2,000 divided over 12 months. That means you could almost get $200 more a month in your pocket, because you're always overpaying. And I know a lot of people, oh, I'm scared of not owing, but if that's consistent, ask somebody. You can get some help with it if you're a little insecure about making those changes. But big refunds mean you're overpaying. If it happens every year, that means every year you're overpaying. And that's money that could be drawing you interest someplace else. So when you think about that, you think about, do you have a spending budget? Do you just haphazardly, if somebody asks you, what's your monthly bills? What's your monthly bills for the month? When you don't know that, that means you're not handling your money well. You're just haphazardly going through life and allowing your money not to work hard for you, but just to float. And so
Mm,
when you're thinking about um, long-term financial goals, you planning for vacation, you can just plan for everything, and it gives you order. One of the other things that's so important for us as that as a people, we deal with high blood pressure and a lot of things. When we have control of our finances, we have less stress.
absolutely.
We have
Absolutely.
less stress. When you manage, it reduces
Absolutely.
stress. You have better health and lifestyle. When you manage, you have less debt. It takes a toll. You are prepared for a major life transition. Emergency funds help, when you can get in a no high interest rate debt. And then we have to talk about credit, because credit, if your credit isn't good, you overpay for everything. Life insurance, anything that you pay for, you overpay for because your credit is bad. Because even on your job now, you are impacted by your credit. You can't
Yeah.
get clearance. You can't, oh yeah, yeah. So it
What,
has impact.
so what would you consider to be a good credit score or an acceptable credit score? I mean,
I think
I
it
know mine is, go ahead.
I think you should aim for nothing less than the 700.
Yeah,
If you
yeah,
can do an 800, and you can, and it takes a little bit of time, and you also and then there, oh God, there's credit places, and all of them you don't have to pay. They're you're going to have to invest in yourself means investing your time, investing your mindset, investing your money, and investing a part of your life to change where you are. So the first part for that question is, make a commitment to yourself that you want better. Start
mm,
again with your mindset. Make a decision to act on it. And small steps are better than no steps.
yeah,
So definitely don't beat yourself up with, I mean, because life happens. Like I said, I've been downsized, and you could have savings, and I was downsized in a recession, so you know how that went. And most of the companies that I worked for were government funded, because I worked a lot of nonprofit international. So
mm,
when their money was cut and you downsized, and you didn't know how long it was going to last, one time it lasts a long time. And so I found myself saying, okay, money is getting tight, and you're trying not to use your retirement. And so you do what you have to do, because you do have to live, and you have to pay your bills, and you have to pay your mortgage and all those things. But that's the main reason why you plan,
yeah, yeah,
because life happens to all of us, and we
yeah.
don't know what the future holds. But at least having a plan for the future gives you some leverage and some support.
Awesome. That's awesome. We have a loaded question coming from the audience. What is your view on married couples' finances?
Well,
How do
Mary,
they, how do they spend? How do they save? How do they invest? How do they, and I always say it's up to the individual, but I want your take on it.
I would say, if we're going from a biblical perspective, then there's had to be a oneness. And if you are planning your future together, then I think it's okay to have, and definitely agree that it's okay to have a different account for yourself, but I think it also should be discussed, and the family should sit down with a strategy for wellness long term. If you, because you can literally retire early if you have a plan early enough.
Yeah,
And so
yeah,
I think with couples, money is a sensitive. You in our culture and in our families, money
yeah.
can be it can be
Fighting
a,
words,
a, a game changer, a contract breaker. So
all
I
of that.
think, but I do think it should be open discussion, and then when the couple is on the same page, and don't and be honest, and be, because see, all of us, again, we're talking about, sometimes there might have been some discipline spending in one family, and then the other person came from a different family where you didn't talk about money, you did whatever you wanted to, if I earned it, it's all mine. But when you come to a union and trying to make that union whole and the best, that means it includes all aspects of that union, including the money. And
Yeah,
so I think you should find a ways, be honestly, and talk about it. And even if there's some disagreement, be honest enough to say, okay, right now I can't do this, but let's talk about where we want to go. And if the picture and the plan looks great and it's a possibility, then work on it, but work on it in pieces. But I think that it should definitely be a union. I think that it's okay for this, the partners to have a separate saving individually, but I think that you should also make that union whole. And if you have children, you should also bring them into financial literacy as well. But first, the couple has to be on the same page before you can bring any children and any other family members into it. But I think if you think about it as your body, if the leg said, I'm just going to, not do anything, and you got to drag that girl all the time because she just don't want to cooperate, then there's a problem. But you just not going to cut her off. You're going to try to make her whole, because her being whole going to make you whole. So when you
yeah,
think about it, when that aspect, you want to work with the whole,
yeah,
because we
yeah.
can do well together. And if you love someone, then we know we're not all perfect, far from it, but we can figure it out. And so I
Yeah.
think if it's worth being together, I think you should figure it out, because you could do great things together if you manage them and plan for them.
Absolutely. My husband and I, we're both very frugal people. Now, he'll
That's
spend
good.
money. He will spend money before I do. We love thrift stores and Goodwill and bargain huntings and what do you call those things, flea markets. We love those things. And when it comes to household money, when we got married, we I added him to my account and made it a joint account, but we both have separate personal accounts and separate
Hmm.
savings accounts, because
Hmm.
if I want to buy him something, I don't want him to see it coming out of the the house
Yeah,
account.
yeah.
Like, what did you spend $100 on? I bought you a gift. So we sat down before we got married. It's like, how are we going to do the finances? So
Hmm.
we have at least 5 or 6 accounts between us, but we have a
Hmm.
house account that is strictly pay the bills. That's all this is for.
Yes.
Groceries,
Yes.
car notes and all that stuff. But he has his separate account where, like, if he does his projects or whatever, and he has a separate savings, and I have the same thing, and then we both have separate ministry accounts, and then there's the hidden savings account.
Oh yeah, and all of that is necessary. And do you do estate planning and wills? Those other things we have to talk about. Sufficient insurance. When you say you love
Absolutely.
someone and you're, again, a partnership, I think it's the most devastating thing in the world for someone to lose a spouse and find out that there's no money, and they basically may not be able to live in the house that they lived in for the last 25 years, because maybe the person that was in charge of the finances wasn't good at it, and you didn't talk about it. So you find out, at a loss. You're already losing, your partner for life, and you find out there's not sufficient insurance, and there's no estate planning, there's no will, and depending on what state you live in, what how things are dispersed, and it gets tied up in legalism,
Mhm.
and so it becomes
Probate.
so burdensome. And it
Yeah.
doesn't have to be.
No, and that's one of the things that I teach is estate planning. I hold classes, I do seminars, but
Mhm.
it's not well attended because people don't want to talk about it because it puts reality in your face. I said, just because you don't want to talk about the inevitable doesn't mean
It
it's not
does.
going to happen. If you, my slogan is, love your family enough to plan, and so life insurance, I do the whole gamut, and so I'm like,
Yeah, yeah.
if y'all don't want to talk about it, you're going to be that person who's going to set up a GoFundMe page when somebody dies, and then you're
Exactly.
going to be begging people to give you $5,000 because you didn't plan accordingly. And so I'm a stickler for estate planning. I'm a stickler. So you are absolutely right,
Yeah.
because you can have the whole life, which you can borrow against, or
Mhm.
you can have the term life, where of course it's for term. But I don't want to get into that because. But yeah,
Mhm.
it's very important. If y'all want to talk about estate planning, reach out to me and stop playing. Okay, so I have another. I'm telling you, it's really sad in our community. We don't want to
It is.
talk about it because we think if we talk about death, it's going to happen.
It's gonna happen. One thing we are guaranteed, we are born and we will die. And
Absolutely,
if you don't
everything
have
we
any
know.
other promises, be assured that you will not live forever.
That's exactly right. We got a start date and we got an expiration date. What you do in the middle is going to affect both of those. So let's work it out. Let's work it out. All right. So let's see. So we had someone that had a question that said, people with bad credit keep the banks open. Do you agree or disagree?
Well, yes. I don't think that's a good thing if that's where it's going. I think what happens is the expectation. It's just like we talking about life and death. The mortality rate. The mortality rate is it because is used in calculating so many financial situations and you know uh, um, in that, and especially in the financial industry, like how long somebody's going to live, how you're going to insure them, blah 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 blah, and so it has a cost attached to it.
Yes.
So when you think about that, um, being wise with your money, interest rates are going to always be what keeps the banks open, but it doesn't have to be your bad credit or you paying at the highest rate to keep the banks open. Banks are going to be open anyway. They have found the systems work. The rich
Yes.
have found ways and to utilize other people's money. You can use other people's money for um, to invest in stocks and bonds. You can use your other people's monies to purchase real estate for rental, wholesale houses. The system is made to work for the wealthy, but we have to learn how to transfer from there to have the mindset of a wealthy person. I've had the pleasure of interviewing um, everyday millionaires, and it's been so amazing because one I met, and she was really hilarious. She was incarcerated and she started her business. She started doing tax. They call her Shawshank and she's a black female, and she started doing taxes in prison. Now
What?
this woman is a millionaire. But what I'm
Wow.
saying that to say, then another guy I interviewed, and his father was a drug dealer, and he um, got in trouble, and he was given an opportunity. This guy said the police pretty much said, we're either going to lock you up or you're going to have to, you got a week. The judge said, you have a week to tell us what you're going to do. He was trying to figure out what he was going to do. Anyway, he walking down the street. Somebody in the army asked him, son, have you ever thought about the army? It changed his life.
Yeah.
And so as a result of that, then he grew discipline and found other people to mentor and knowledge. And actually all of them, the whole key was they changed their mindset.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
They changed their actions. They created a plan and they executed it. So I was
Yes.
saying that to say that statistically 80% of every self-made millionaire has one degree works hard, has a job, and they change their lifestyle by changing their knowledge, their mindset, their actions, their plans, and their execution. So it's an everyday person can do that. And so most of the people, the first five were everyday people, and did not have money.
Mm. Well, maybe, and I know you do a series called Secrets of Unconditional Millionaires. I think that's what you're alluding to now.
Unconventional millionaires, yes.
And so that's some good stuff. I'm going to try to have to catch the next one. But as we're talking about this, and I'm glad this is a great segue because you're talking about how they started their businesses, from whatever extreme, whether from
Mhm.
prison, from
Yep.
the
No
garage,
excuses.
from the trunk. Talk to us about startups. How can we, most of us again don't have savings. Talk to us about some strategies for startups. How do we start a business if we don't have any money?
Well, you know what? Nowadays, it's first online is so easy. You have
Yeah.
Facebook, you have an audience. So first you have to find out what is it that you love to do. I guess, and the first thing is if it's something that think about, well, I don't know, it should be something that you love to do. One of the things I find out that, especially if you're always helping people and people are always calling you, what are they always calling you about? What is
Mhm.
it always, you find out a lot of times what your passion is and what your purpose is and what your power is, a lot of times in how people, call you and what they need from you, or if it's something that you love to do. So first you need to find out what it is that you want to do. And if it's something that you can do online, nowadays you can do home-based business. So you can minimize your costs with home-based business. You have, there's so many, Fiverr, you can get things done cheaply. And you think about building a team. If you have kids that are of age, and these kids are, they're sharper than we are with technology. So you can hire a kid, and they probably can, post things for you on Facebook. So what you really want to do is first find out what it is that you want to do. Find out what your why is, because you need to be motivated. So if your why is to change your lifestyle, then you also like helping people or whatever it is. So key in on your purpose and your passion and what your power is. And then what is it that you want to do? And then start doing some research on it, because nowadays, things that we thought never would be done online because
Yeah.
of COVID has actually, and what's so amazing, you see the increase of entrepreneurship is booming. People
Yeah.
are thinking outside of the box, and think outside of the box. You are authentic. You have power. You have thought. You have history. You have background. And so use what's first in your hands. And I always think about when God said to Moses, he said,
Mhm.
use what's in your hand. Because sometimes
Yeah.
we think, oh, that's not good. He says, no, nothing but a little stick. But it is powerful when you can change a whole nation's life. And
Absolutely.
so when you think about what you have in your hands, think about first, if you decide you want to do this, then you're going to have to do some research. You can think about your team and maybe family members. And once you make up your mind, don't let anybody discourage you. And the other
Mhm.
part is that it may not be that easy, but it's worth it. And see, a lot of times, sometimes when we start off with jump starts, you think you need everything. Don't spend money right away and start buying all kinds of software, because sometimes you can get around. There's so many easy. I have a couple of links that I have with a lot of tools that you can use that are free. And I actually pull them together whenever I run across something so that I can share it with people that are interested in Jumpstart, because everything doesn't have to cost. So there are so many resources now. So what I would say is, one thing that you would have to do, you want to definitely um, file your business. So once you really know what that is, that's an expense that you can't get around, but it's not, it's a couple of few $100s. And but think it through. Think about what it is that you want to do. Put some action to it. Start looking around. Start asking questions. Start going to, you can go to, small business administration. Also, you can actually get a coach for free in small business administration.
Yeah. Score.
Yep,
Mm-hmm.
score. You can get it. If yep, so you can actually get someone. But sometimes don't let them discourage you. I know my coach actually went this month, and they told her nobody was ever going to pay her for what she does. Well, she's a millionaire. Okay, so they did pay her, and they paid her well.
Yeah, yeah.
But she was just saying how discouraged she was because they told her no one was ever, and she was like, "But I don't know why they wouldn't." You know, she had to go back and sit down and think about it again. She's like, "But this is really where it works for me, and if
Yeah,
I get results for myself, so I can definitely get results for other people." And think about that. What have you done, and what do you do that change people's lives? And they're saying, "God, you're a lifesaver. You every time I come to you, you're always fixing this, or you're always doing this for me." And so, even as a financial professional, my family has always, from for as long as I can remember, I'm done something finance because it's always been fascinating to me. But I realize as a result of that, out of seven um, nieces and nephews, six of them are entrepreneurs because we always talked about it. So from making cookies and having a cookie business, whatever it was always a part of our conversation and planning. So it makes me happy to realize that even before I started my first business, we always talked about being a business owner.
yeah,
And
yeah,
so sometimes just finding people to talk to, mentors, other people, don't, reach out to folks, talk to people, join Facebook pages that you see where people are doing business. And if they're doing some of the things that you're interested in, there's some of them are free. They're not private groups. So start investigating and connecting and try to be really wise. Don't try to buy all of the software that you think you need because
yeah,
sometimes, you don't even really need a website. You actually need a landing page. A landing page you can get, from Fiverr. You can get somebody to create and you can get started.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
and one of the things I always say, you know, create a big image, but it doesn't have to cost a lot of money. Big
Absolutely.
images, yes, you can make small business, big image. So
Yeah.
look well and professional, but you don't have to spend a whole lot of money to do that.
Look like you're doing it big without being big.
Exactly.
So I always tell
Exactly.
people, I say, walk in the room like you own it, even if you know there's not but one penny in your pocket. Walk in the room like you own it. Take
Exactly. And the other
prophetic presence.
exactly. And the other thing you do, because see, a lot of places give you 30 days free. Would make sure before you do the 30 days, you actually start playing around, be ready to use it fully for 30 days.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get it and then just let it linger. No, so if you can get some 30 days, don't set it up until you're actually ready to. So do your investigation, your research prior to, and know that that's the one. And ask questions of other people that use it. Nowadays on Facebook, you can ask folks almost anything because there are a huge group of entrepreneurs throughout.
Yeah, yeah. Wow, this has been rich. I can't believe our time is,
Oh,
dwindled
yeah,
away that
wow.
quickly,
Oh, we
that
didn't get to
quickly.
talk about investments. We'll have to do that again.
Yeah, we'll have to bring you back. But I do want to remind everybody that, today on Life Matters, we are talking with my very special guest, Gwendolyn Wilson, the Turning Point Strategist. And I want to share with you all her book called Turning Point, Answering the Entrepreneur's Call. You
Yeah,
can get that on Amazon for $9.99. You don't want to, if you want to start a business or if you want to just know what it means or what it looks like, get this book. You will not be disappointed. Once again, the book is called Turning Point, Answering the Entrepreneur's Call for $9.99 on Amazon.com. If you want to reach out to Gwen, the Turning Point Strategist, certainly you can reach out to her by email at gwendolyn.wilson.tps@gmail.com. Her email, once again, is gwendolyn.wilson.tps@gmail.com, or you can find her on Facebook or IG, Gwendolyn Wilson, the Turning Point Strategist, or on LinkedIn under Gwendolyn D. Wilson. This has been an amazing show. I tell you, the time is just spent, but we can certainly set you up and schedule you again to come on and we can do the investment piece. But I'm so glad that you came on. I want to thank you so much, Gwen, for coming on and sharing all of your nuggets, all of your wisdom, all of your, information, and don't hang up because I need to talk to you. I need to get on.
It
I
has
need to
been
get on
my
your
pleasure.
schedule. Yes, ma'am.
As
I need to get on your schedule. So those of you who are tuning in, you can watch the playback on YouTube at Life Matters with Michele TV Official. That is Life Matters with Michele TV Official. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. You can also listen to the show on Fridays on sensationalsoundradios.net at 4 o'clock. Every Friday at 4 o'clock on sensationalsoundradio.net. You can listen to the show, but you can watch the show on Facebook, or you can watch the show on YouTube at Life Matters with Michele TV Official. I'm also booking guests for August all the way through December. Reach out to me on my website at www.im-mij.com, or you can send me an email at michele@im-mij.com. I'm looking for guests. Particularly, I'm looking to do this discussion board with beautiful, bald, bold women. I want
all
to talk
right.
about our heads, not our hair, but our heads. I want to talk about it. So if that is you, ladies, please reach out to me. Again, go to my website, www.im-mij.com. I would love to speak with you and do a discussion about our heads and being bold, beautiful, and bald. Okay.
All
So once
right.
again, I want to thank you, Gwen, for coming on,
My pleasure.
for sharing all of your strategy, your nuggets, all your good stuff for each and every one of us. Once again, everybody, I want you to go to Amazon.com and get her book called Turning Point, Answering the Entrepreneur's Call for $9.99. Once again, this is going to bless your whole life. I'm going to get my copy. Once again, thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Thank you, Gwen, for coming on. I'm
My
excited about
pleasure.
what you're doing. I'm excited about how you are helping our community. And for everybody out there, thank you again for tuning in and for listening. Thank you for coming to Life Matters with Michele, where we talk about what matters to you, you, and you. Bye-bye. You all have a blessed day,
Bye.
and we'll talk again next week.
All right.